So the Ascension lawsuit just had its first real turn, and honestly, it was only a matter of time before this happened. For weeks, the whole story has been that the people behind Ascension are ghosts. Anonymous, offshore, impossible to find. The kind of operation that vanishes the second the law gets close. Blizzard basically said as much in court that these guys would scatter into crypto and bulletproof hosting before anyone could pin them down. But for me, it was always fairly obvious that at least someone was going to have to surface in some form. And on the 2nd of July, one of them did. They walked into a federal courtroom with a lawyer ready to fight. Drop a comment if you call this too, and if you want this case followed properly all the way through, subscribing is the easiest way to catch the next turn, because there's going to be one. So here's what landed on the docket, and I want to be precise about it because it's easy to oversell. 3 documents, all dated the 2nd of July. 2 of them are what's called an appearance, which is just a lawyer formally telling the court, I represent this party now. The third is the interesting one. It's a notice of opposition to Blizzard's request to unmask everyone. The ex parte application I broke down last time. Now, one of the named defendants in this case is a company, and a lawyer has stepped up to represent it. I'm going to leave the attorney's name out of this the same way I leave everyone else's out, and just talk about what the filing actually does. And you'll see in a second why that's almost funny. Because the first thing the filing does is point out that Blizzard sued the client under the wrong name. The company Blizzard named in the lawsuit isn't the company that actually exists. They got it wrong. And that's a small thing on its own, but think about what it says. Blizzard's whole case is built on the idea that they've done the deep investigation, followed the money, mapped out exactly who these shell companies are and who's behind them. And the very first defendant to lawyer up shows up and goes, you didn't even get our name right. Here's where I have to pump the brakes on the hype though, because this filing is not the big courtroom brawl yet. What the defense is actually asking for is time. They say they only got hired that same day, literally hours before filing, so there's been no chance to read the full application, the declarations, the complaint, all of it. And the next day, the 3rd of July, is the Independence Day holiday, with the weekend right after. So they asked the court for permission to file the real written opposition by the 10th of July and asked the judge to hold off on ruling until that lands. So what we've got right now is narrow. A defendant showing up, planting their feet, and saying, give me a week and I'll tell you why this discovery shouldn't happen. The actual argument against being unmasked, the meat of it, comes around the 10th. This is the throat clear before the real thing. But even the throat clear matters because of what it signals. Remember, the entire theory of where this scene is heading, the thing I've said in video after video, is that legal pressure pushes these operations into the shadows, that they go anonymous and offshore and untouchable. And here's a defendant doing the opposite, hiring an American lawyer, standing in an American court, fighting in the open. That's one data point against the whole vanishing to the dark story. And it's worth paying attention to. I'll say the boring but important part plainly since it's a legal video. The racketeering claim here is the civil kind. Civil RICO is a lawsuit between private parties. It sends nobody to prison, and it's historically hard to win. So when you hear someone showed up to fight the RICO case, picture lawyers arguing over subpoenas, not handcuffs. And now the part that makes this whole thing surreal. The exact same weekend that a defendant is in court trying to slow down the lawsuit, Ascension went ahead and launched the biggest project they've ever built, Conquest of Azeroth. It went live on the 3rd of July, the literal day after the court filing. And it is not small, 21 completely custom classes, 70 specializations, a brand new support role that vanilla World of Warcraft never had. It's free to play and it pulled a serious crowd on day one. So picture the split screen. On one side, lawyers, deadlines, a federal judge deciding whether to tear the masks off. On the other, tens of thousands of people rolling necromancers and tinkers and witch doctors into a brand new world. Most of them probably not thinking about the lawsuit at all. Same project, same week, 2 completely different realities. And I keep going back and forth on what that combination even means. Is it confidence, a team that genuinely believes the lawsuit can't touch them, so why not launch? Is it defiance, a middle finger pointed at Blizzard in the form of the most ambitious thing they could possibly ship? Or is it just momentum, a project that was years in the making, hitting its release date regardless of what the lawyers are doing? Honestly, it's probably all three at once, and the people who made it might not fully separate them either. Which brings me to the part I actually care about most here because it's what gets lost in all the legal noise. Strip away the court filings for a second and look at what Conquest of Azeroth actually is. It's 21 classes built entirely from scratch. Necromancers who command the undead. Thinkers who drop turrets and mechs. Witch doctors, rune masters, blood mages, a class that literally bends time. Thousands of new abilities. A whole reimagining of the world people have been playing for 20 years. And here's the uncomfortable truth underneath it. Official World of Warcraft, with all of Blizzard's money and people, has never made anything like this. An official Classic Plus still doesn't even exist. These people built the thing the players were asking for, and Blizzard didn't. So the community is split on it, and I get both sides. Plenty of people are cheering the take that if a company worth this much can't outbuild its own fans, that's on the company. And then there's the quieter, more uncomfortable voice coming from inside the private server world itself that says this stopped being passionate hobbyists keeping a game alive and turned into a very professional operation making very real money off someone else's work. Both of those are true at the same time. The love and the business are the same project. But whatever you think about the money, here's what a shutdown actually costs. It's not just a company losing a court case. It's all of that craft, all 21 classes, all that design nobody else is making. Blinking out? You can believe Blizzard has every legal right to protect what's theirs and still feel something when you watch the most creative thing to happen to this game in years get switched off right as tens of thousands of people fall in love with it. Both of those feelings can sit in the same chest. So where does it actually land from here? The next real beat is that written opposition, due around the 10th of July. That's when we find out the actual argument for why Blizzard shouldn't be allowed to unmask these people. And given that the first move was catching Blizzard using the wrong company name, I'm genuinely curious what else the defense thinks they've got. After that, the judge decides. And remember, there are two separate clocks running here, the defendants answering the lawsuit itself, and this fight over the early subpoenas, and they don't move at the same speed. What I can't tell you is whether this changes the ending. Maybe one defendant fighting in the open is the start of a real pushback. Maybe it's a single company with a single lawyer, and everyone else still scatters exactly like Blizzard predicted. I lean toward thinking this suite still ends the way the Turtle one did. But I've been surprised once this week already, so I'm holding that loosely. If you want to see how this plays out, subscribe and stick around, because the 10th of July is going to be worth talking about. And tell me in the comments where you land. Are we watching the start of a real fight, or just a slower version of the same ending? Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, take care.